For whom the bill?
Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'll call the Crow Wing County Regular Board meeting for September 14th, 2021 to order. If you'll stand and join us in the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 14th, 2021 to order. If you'll stand and join us in the pledge and a moment of silence.
Must be kind of a delay. Did you hear his voice out there? I heard you talking out in the hallway, Mr. Chairman.
My alter ego. Thank you, everyone.
Could hear crickets.
So at this time, it's open forum, so if there's anyone who would like to speak on anything other than what's on our printed agenda, this is your opportunity to speak. Anyone that would like to speak on anything other than on our agenda? There's none on Teams. Nope. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to number 3, which is the review and approve of the minutes from August 24th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Franzine makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not in favor, same sign. That motion passes. We'll move on to number 4, which is to review and approve the agenda.
No changes.
No changes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine, second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, motion passes. Number 5, our consent agenda. And I know Commissioner Coring has a couple questions on these items, or a
Thank
couple
you,
of them.
Mr. Chairman. Could I have somebody give me a little further explanation of the Lutheran Social Services resolution for family homeless prevention and assistance program?
Kara is on the Teams meeting. Would she like to address that?
Hello, Commissioners. I do not have a ton of information. We're not the ones bringing this forward, but I will find out for you and I will send you an email.
Actually, I was the one that put this on the agenda, and she's obviously not here. So it was on the last agenda, and she had to cancel, and it was put on this agenda, and I confirmed with her, and she is not here.
Well, I'm not voting for that then. If that's the case, I'm not going to vote for something that I don't know anything about, or I don't have somebody here to give an explanation.
Should we pull it then?
Yeah. Well, it's up to you, but I'm not, I'll just vote no.
I think we should pull it, because otherwise I think we've got probably 3 no's for the whole consent agenda.
So we'll pull that, and they can put it on the next agenda, and if you would express to them the necessity to appear, I would
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
And then just 2 more questions. So Gary, could you just give a brief on the abatements, just to remind me what that's all about, or somebody? Okay.
Oh, Mr. Chair, can I just back up a second? I just got an email that she's on Teams waiting to be let in, but I don't see her on Teams waiting to be let in, so obviously we're having a technical problem, so I'll have
Okay.
Darcy get a hold of her with the right
So,
link.
at this point, we'll just hold off on that one, but if
Okay.
you go ahead on the abatements.
Sure. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. What was your question, Mr.
Well, my
Cohen?
question is just, can you just explain, I mean, if, I understand this, but if somebody else is looking at the agenda and says, geez, what's that mean? So can you just explain what that is?
Sure. The abatements are requests from taxpayers to make adjustments to their value or classification of their property to reduce their tax, or potentially a penalty.
And then you're going through them administratively, and these are the abatements.
Correct. These are the ones that were approved by our office, by Land Services Director Gary Griffin.
Okay. All right, I guess that's all I need to know on that.
Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Don, I see Don sitting there, I just request for services agreement with the Minnesota Judicial Branch. Is that you, or could somebody explain what is that, Don? Just. Oh.
Captain?
Members of the board, the Minnesota Judicial Branch is holding a conference, a judges conference at Grandview Lodge next week, 2 weeks from now, beginning on the 28th for a week. They requested we provide security during their time there. There's going to be 200 plus judges at the event, and they just requested that we, in conjunction with the Nisswa Police Department, have deputies on scene. Similarly to what we do for like the JCs, an outside entity requesting extra security, we make them fill out a contract with our overtime hourly rate, equipment costs. And it doesn't affect our patrol deputies because we put it out as overtime, so we have extra staff that will cover those shifts.
So this is all reimbursed by the
Correct.
judicial branch?
Correct.
Okay. Satisfy the
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Captain.
Yeah.
Do we know if this person is still attempting to get?
Yeah,
in?
I think what happened, and well, I don't think, I know, she has the wrong link because she has the August 25th or whatever date it was link. So I just sent her a new link, so she's waiting.
Mr. Chair, can we do the land services stuff and just come back to the consent calendar?
I'm comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with that, too.
Okay, so we'll move on to number 6 for now, and we'll come back to the consent agenda. So on 6.1, we have the Weston Properties LLC preliminary plat for Kennedy Woods.
All right. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I have a couple items here under land services, both on the same property. The first one is a request for preliminary plat, and this is for parcel 99110597. It's located in First Assessment in Section 11, and it's near the Woods area. So this property, this is a request for a preliminary plat, conservation development of Kennedy Woods with 15 total lots consisting of 14 individual lots for residential dwellings and 1 outlot, per the survey received on July 7th. This property was originally zoned rural residential 10, shown on your screen there. It's the big 40-acre property on the right-hand side. It was rezoned to rural residential 2.5. This property was, the idea is we have 14 lots with an outlot A going through that area. That'll be a private road. We know there had been some history on this one with making sure that the private road leading to this plat off of Kennedy Road, which comes off of County Road 3, ensuring that that meets our 66-foot standard. They have since secured an easement from the private individuals to the south to make sure that that entire easement is 66 feet. This preliminary plat was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission in August. We did have some County Highway Department comments. There were a number of conditions that were placed on this plat as well, most of them concerning the need to ensure that it is very clear that that private road leading into the plat is going to be privately maintained, and that there's a maintenance plan developed as part of the final plat, and that it's centered in the roadway, and that all of the local road authority conditions by the County Highway Department are satisfied and in writing. And we believe at this point that we've received everything we need at this point that's been required or conditioned, recommended for condition for this to continue to move forward. So there's just a brief background on this one. So at this point, we're looking for approved, table, or deny for the preliminary plat. I'll be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Commissioner Coring?
So Jake, what you just explained about the Highway Department, those requirements or stipulations that they put on there for the road coming in and in there, so if all those lots are sold and those people put together a petition and they come into us and they want that to be an unorganized territory township road, then it should be all up to snuff where it should be, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Coring, the covenants that are on that plat are stating that it can't be taken over without the owners and the association upgrading all the improvements necessary by the highway department before that happens. And of course, the county board gets to make that decision whether or not they want to take that on. And it's also stated in the maintenance plan that they've submitted. So it's pretty clear that it won't be, it'll be the responsibility of the owners of the plat to upgrade that road before the county board takes it over.
Okay. One other question. So where it says general notes, I know the answer to this question, but is that where that motel is, and that's where the woods is, right where that spot is? You see what I mean?
I'm going to grab a pointer real quick.
Okay.
So the Woods property is up in this area. Yep, where those notes were
Yeah.
that you had talked about.
Okay.
Yep.
Did that make sense about the road? I mean,
Yes, I think Jake and I talked prior to the meeting, and we have all the assurances that we need that this will, I guess the Township Road or the Kennedy Woods Road will end, and there will be a turnaround available for the snow plow trucks, but it will end where that easement begins and then moves into the development area. So we have all the documentation registered with the county, so.
but as of right now, it's not a township road.
Correct.
But-
No, it's a
but
private road.
It's a private road, but there's a lot of private roads. But I'm just saying that when all those lots are sold, and if they wanted to come to us like we just did on Carolyn Lane, then they could do that if it's up to our standards.
If
And
it's
we're
up-
making sure it's up to our standards now, correct?
Right.
Not right now, go ahead, Jake.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Coring, I apologize if I misheard your original question, but to be clear, it is not up to all of the Highway Department standards for First Assessment Road. And this was an application that was already,
Oh, okay.
in the hopper at the time that bigger discussion happened.
Okay,
Yep.
I understand now.
Any other concerns?
I think Jake's answered most of our questions,
Okay,
Yep.
then I would look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I can,
Go
before we
ahead.
make a motion, I will be abstaining from this vote on the fact that I'm associated with Remax Lake Sarah Realty, who's also associated with the developer of this project.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I would look for a motion to approve the preliminary plat for the Kennedy Woods.
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion to approve. Commissioner Coring seconds that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Not in favor? Same sign. That motion passes.
And I
We'll move-
abstain.
And Commissioner Brecken abstains. We'll move on to the final plat then for Kennedy Woods.
Yep, so Mr. Chair and members of the board, this is the same property, same use. Sometimes we see the final plat, as you've seen in the past, come separately sometime down the road. In this case, the developers wanted to see the final plat at the same time as the preliminary plat. We have received a developer's agreement and financial assurity for the construction of the stormwater features, erosion control features, things like that. And we've received everything we need to feel good about bringing it before you for consideration for the final plat for the same property. So I don't have too much more of an introduction on this one. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? I think most of them have been answered. Concerns are taken care of. So I would look for a motion to approve the final plat for Kennedy Woods.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag, second by Commissioner Coring. And one abstention will be Commissioner Brecken again.
Correct.
With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not in favor. That motion passes. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And with that, we'll move on to 6.3, which is the 2021 budget amendment for land services.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Today, you have a budget amendment request in front of you to improve numerous trails, parks, equipment, and hardware for forestry and survey staff. And currently, why we're here with such a large amendment, we budgeted for 1.3 million and some change this year in our budget. And remember when we set the 21 budget was, we started that in 2020 and all the stuff with COVID going on, it was a little bit interesting. But for what's happened in 2021 is currently we're sitting at 2.9 million in revenue when we budgeted 1.3. So it's been a crazy year with how many properties people have wanted to buy in our county, which is a great thing. So we feel we have an opportunity potentially to really make some great improvements and enhancements to our outdoor recreational opportunities for our folks and improve our forestry practice. Any questions with that?
Questions from the commissioners? Any concerns?
Mr. Chairman, I would move the budget amendment for Land Services Project 2021.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Franzine. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, that motion passes. Thank you, Gary. Have we made the connection?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so we'll go back to the consent agenda. And Ms. Fournier, can you hear us?
Yes, good morning.
And Commissioner Coring had a question for you regarding your homeless prevention and assistance program.
Well, I guess I'd just like to have an explanation of what it is. On consent agenda, there's no, it's just, we vote on the whole thing. I guess I'd like to know a little bit more about what I'm voting on.
Yep, absolutely. So I can give you a little bit of history and why we're needing to have, actually the county board resolution. So my name is Michelle Fournier and I'm the program director at Lutheran Social Service. Lutheran Social Service has received the Family Homeless and Prevention Assistant Program grant for the new biennium that will begin on October 1st of this year and go through September 30th of 2023. Since Lutheran Social Service is a nonprofit and not a government entity, we are required to obtain county board resolution from each county in the service area designating authority LSS to receive those funds and then to authorize LSS to provide services to households within Crow Wing County. And so just a little bit about what the grant is. The Family Homeless Prevention and Assistance Program funds are awarded from the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, and it's a competitive grant process. The grant terms are for a period of 2 years, which is referred to their biennium. The purpose of the grant is to prevent homelessness from occurring and to assist those who are homeless to secure permanent and affordable housing. The funds are used for a broad range of activities aimed again at preventing homelessness, shortening the length of stay in emergency shelters, and then eliminating repeat episodes of homelessness. So those services may include assistance in finding housing and other supportive services, as well as direct assistance with rent, security deposits, mortgages, and other types of assistance with utility bills. And so Lutheran Social Service has been a grant administrator of these funds in the Brainerd area, which covers Crow Wing County, Todd County, and Morrison County since 1999. There currently are 20 grantees in the state of Minnesota of the FHPAP funds, and they serve all 87 counties. During this biennium, just to kind of give you a picture, Crow Wing County households receive approximately 65% of the FHP funding. And we have served approximately 154 Crow Wing County households this current biennium. Other questions that you have, just off the information I talked about?
Any,
Yeah,
go ahead.
how much is the grant? It doesn't say.
Oh, apologize, I did submit some information. So the total award that we did receive was $822,200. There is a 10% admin cost that's taken off the top for our accounting, HR, supervision, and other fees. So that brings the total award to $739,980. There is support service fees of about, that pays for our 2 full-time housing case managers that provide services for the households that apply for grants, and they also do the screenings and outreach as well. And that is at about $358,373.72. And then as far as the direct payment assistance, which includes rent, deposits, et cetera, rental deposits, utility payment assistance, and transportation expense assistance, the total amount for that is $381,606.28. So again, the total amount for the grant is $739,980.
So just another question. It says here in the request for board action, it says Crow Wing County residents. So somebody has to be, I'm assuming it has to be a Crow Wing County resident, and they need to prove that. This isn't to promote, trying to bring other people in to Crow Wing County.
Right, no, they would have to already be a resident here. So it's not like trying to get people to move here, I guess. Is that what you're asking, sir?
Yes. And so then, if community services, do you get like referrals from community services, or how do people come and know that these funds are available?
Yeah, we do get services from the county. We receive referrals from Bridges of Hope and other agencies throughout the county. For persons that are homeless, we actually have to receive those referrals through our continuum of care, which would be our priority list, because they would have to be on that list in order for us to be able to serve them and assist them. And so they would have to do an assessment tool, which would already have to be done, and that's called a VI SPDAT, but they go on a list, and that's held by our continuum of care priority list manager. For folks that are at risk of losing their housing, referrals could come from anywhere, whether that's the county, the women's shelter, it could be Bridges of Hope or other agencies that we collaborate with.
So can I ask another question, Mr. Chair? So another question is this kind of considered a short-term program? I mean, if somebody's in danger of losing their housing because they don't have the funds to pay their rent, do you supplement that for a while, or is this an ongoing thing that you continue to pay forever? Or is it just kind of a short, kind of a bridging, short-term thing?
It's short term. There may be a month or two where we're going to assist people to be able to obtain that housing stability, but there's eligibility requirements as well. And so we're not going to help somebody that's going to need that consistent payments. They are going to be able to have to be able to become stable in order to qualify, because we work with them on budgets and what are they spending money on? They need to have income and those kinds of things. Otherwise, they're not going to be eligible for the program. $739,000 doesn't go a long way in 2 years. And we have outcomes of so many people that we can help too, but, and we have other programming that helps for longer term, but this program isn't one that's going to be, I guess, monetary helping long term. We can provide case management up to 2 years to assist families with support, budgeting, other resources, referrals, for other things that are happening in their life to maybe hopefully stabilize as well. But it isn't a program like a subsidy program where that's going to be for 2 years. It's really meant to be temporary, something that's going to help stabilize them out and then work with them on their budget and other things.
Well, with working with them on their budget, do you also work with them on trying to find a job? Is there a job requirement with this, or is there no job requirement with this, or?
Not a job requirement, but we do look at how are they going to be stable? And they need to talk with us about a plan, because what's going to change next month or the month after. And
Right.
so having those discussions about what's going to be different, because we're not going to be able to assist you, we'll assist you with these 2 months. And there's program limitations where if we did a system this month, or this year, we wouldn't be able to do it next year, and so forth. So having those discussions with them. So having a job would be critical in order for them to be stable as well.
Correct.
Mhm.
I'm done.
Okay.
Questions, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fournier. I think all the questions have been asked and the concerns met, so at this point, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would so move.
Commissioner Brecken makes the motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those not in favor signify by same sign. That motion passes. We'll move on to number 7, Administrative Services and the Historic Courthouse Open House on September 24th.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I just wanted to take this opportunity real quickly to kind of announce our open house that we're going to have at the Historic Courthouse on the 24th, which is a week from this Friday. We're doing that we kind of got cheated out of that due to COVID. We had planned on doing that last year, so we're going to open it up for self-guided tours. We're doing that in conjunction with the City of Brainerd's sesquicentennial that's going to be happening all next week. And in addition, the grand reopening of the museum will be on the same day as our open house.
Is there a time on that particular day, or is it just all day long?
So I placed on your desk this morning the press release, which is this larger piece of paper. And if you look about halfway down, we're going to have from 8 to 5, the courthouse will be open. We'll have self-guided tours. We will have the tour that we placed on YouTube and was in the paper when COVID was going on. We'll have that looping on a couple of television sets here in the courthouse. From 11 to 1, we're going to be serving hot dogs between the courthouse and the museum. Those are privately donated, hot dogs and root beer from 11 to 1 while supplies last. If you feed them, they will come, right? So we're trying to draw some people in.
Generally, that's true.
Very Minnesotan.
Yeah, so in addition to that, there's a 2 p.m. at the museum. There is a ribbon cutting ceremony for the Sabot Library downstairs. If you haven't got a chance to go down and see that, it's a beautiful library. So that's going to be happening. And then the museum will be sponsoring, the Historical Society will be sponsoring root beer, or we're going to have root beer. They're going to have ice cream social from 3 to 5 on the same day.
Okay.
So it's going to be a fun day for everybody.
I think the residents of Crow Wing County ought to be very proud of these buildings and the campus that we have, so I would encourage them to show up and see what they own.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to number 8, the county engineer. First item there is the Carolyn Lane petition for improvements.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. So 2 items for you today. The first is Carolyn Lane, as you mentioned. And this is actually coming back to you. The last board meeting, I had made a mistake and included in the request for board action to set the public hearing associated with the assessment, the potential assessment for Carolyn Lane to have it paved on the 21st of this month, and that did not fall in line with a regular county board meeting. It kind of slipped through, and I wanted to come back today and revisit that and set the public hearing in October, which would be October 12th. That'll give us enough time to follow our own procedure and the rules set out by law to notice the people that are subject to the potential assessment. And so it's really, we just revisiting it. I know that there's a note in the meeting minutes that you approved today that kind of pointing that we're going to take action today to kind of redo that. I'd be happy to answer any questions or even revisit the Carolyn Lane petition subject if you'd like.
So Tim.
Mr. Gordon.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So, just so I'm sure, everybody that's on Carolyn Lane and I think there's 4 other property owners that are off on that little spur, they're included in the assessment, correct?
Patrice, can you show the next slide there? So just to reiterate, today, the requested board action is just simply set the public hearing.
Right. And
those are certainly questions that will be asked, and you'll have to evaluate at the public hearing on October 12th.
But the county board will make the decision on who's going to get assessed.
That's correct.
And we don't have that, we haven't made that decision yet, or?
No, that is a decision that you will be asked to make either after the public hearing, immediately after, or even take more time if you wish to do that. But here, I'll just direct your attention to this map. Here are the 4 parcels that have indicated out of the 21 that they are not in favor of the assessment.
And I can understand that, but I will just, being that I can only talk to all 5 of us while I'm here, I'm just letting you know where my position is, so it's not unclear. I will be only supporting when all the people are assessed. I think that if you look at it, the people that are in red in those lots, they are getting benefit off of Carolyn Lane. They go out onto there, they're getting the benefit too. There is no reason why they should not be assessed also. I understand their issue. That is not what the petition was. The petition was for Carolyn Lane. So I'm going to be supporting at that time that all the property owners that are connected with Carolyn Lane will be taking part in the cost of that. Does that make sense?
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, all of the parcels that are shown are included in the petition, and all of the parcels will be noticed for the public hearing. What you do with it afterwards is up to you guys, but just to be clear, all of the parcels, the green ones and the red ones are included in the petition, and we will notice them of the public hearing.
But I just wanted to let the county board members know that that's where my position is, because having been out there, and it just makes sense to me that the ones in red take part in the cost participation.
Okay, so at this time, what is being asked of us is to change the public hearing date from September 21st to October 12th, 2021.
That's correct.
So I would look for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I'd make that motion.
Commissioner Brecken makes the motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, same sign. That motion passes. We'll move on to 8.2, which is the City of Cross Lake Cost Share Agreement
Could I
for
ask one question before you move on to that?
18-006-007. Commissioner Coring, ask your question.
Before we move on to that, will you be sending out a letter to each individual property owner so that
Yes.
nobody can say, I didn't know anything about it, like the last conversation that we had, I didn't know anything about it. They will be getting a letter via the mail.
That's correct. This is an assessment hearing, and that is a very specific thing and even covered in state law. And so we're going to be following those requirements for notice.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that, Mr. Chair.
It's okay, we're on this Cross Lake.
The next thing I have for you is a cost share, a proposal for a cost share agreement with the City of Cross Lake. I put a bunch of history in there, and it's maybe even doesn't do it justice. But over the last couple years, starting in 2019 and 20, the city of Cross Lake and the Crow Wing County had collaborated to apply for some federal assistance through the Transportation Alternatives Grant Program to build some pedestrian accommodations and safety improvements in Cross Lake. And so there is agreement between the two agencies that these are needed, and we are pursuing the funding through a grant. I would say early June of this year, the city had come forward and indicated that they wanted to expedite that process and remove a couple key components. And particularly, these are the flashing beacons, just like you see out here crossing the road, Laurel Street to the Judicial Center and the Community Services Building. That is not something that we anticipated. It kind of caught us by surprise that they wanted to just go on their own and do that. And we did discuss it. Commissioner Brecken and I had meetings with some of the city leadership and allowed them to move forward. And then there was a little bit of disagreement on to what extent that they would have to build some of the infrastructure. If you recall, at one of the last board meetings, the mayor of Cross Lake came in and was asking to defer some of those things that I have required. You had indicated that you would not do that, and they must build the full build-out, particularly the ADA components, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act. Since that time, they have secured all the bids. They have agreed to move forward with that and meet all of the requirements. And they have found a bidder that will come in. As a matter of fact, I think they will be starting this week to build the concrete ramps that are required, and then also install the actual flashing equipment that they had procured themselves. And so after they had, we'd come to an agreement that they would build it in the proper way, I had come forward with a proposal to cost share with them. This is about a $50,000 project, and I believe that the prices are elevated because of the short notice that we received and the late bidding, and certainly not the way we would do it if we were developing and delivering a project. And so the cost share that you have before you establishes some of that background, but then also the methodology for the cost share of $12,644, which represents 25% of the $50,000 request or current bid that they have to install this. So it's going to start this week. Last night, the city council reviewed this agreement and also and adopted it as well. And it's certainly for your consideration. If you have challenges with it, we'd have to go back to them, but they've had initial agreement with the figures and some of the other stipulations in the cost share agreement. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the engineer?
Just a question, Tim, we have developed a policy, the Crow Wing County has a cost share policy, so this all fits into our cost share policy, I would assume.
Yes, and because we were developing it and planning for it to be paid for with this grant, and that grant would have funded 80% of our construction cost. And so the decision by the city of Cross Lake to move forward in very short notice, without any notice to us, that without the benefit, it's costing Crow Wing County more money than it would, almost maybe 2 or 3 times more. And so the cost share policy is applied, but only after our share is reflected of that 80% benefit from the grant. So we applied what we would get from the grant and then split the cost that we would have under that scenario, if that makes any sense. It is kind of laid out in the grant language. So yes, following the cost share policy with the caveat that because the way that they've proceeded is costing Crow Wing County more money, $50,000 instead of $20,000, I wanted to make sure that that's not passed on to us simply because of the way that they proceeded. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. So at this point, what we're looking for is a motion to authorize entering into the construction cost share agreement between Crow Wing County and the City of Cross Lake for the installation of enhanced pedestrian crossings at the intersections of CASA 66 and CASA 3 and CASA 66 Swan Drive, CP 18-066-007. And the county engineer is authorized to sign off on that.
Mr. Chair, I
Along
make
with
that
the-
motion.
By review of the county attorney.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that that has been reviewed by the county attorney staff.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I make that motion.
Commissioner Brecken makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those not in favor, same sign. That motion passes.
Mr. Chair, if I can, I'd like to recognize Mr. Bray for the job that he's done and the way he's worked with the Cross Lake and being able to work through this and represent Crow Wing County very well.
Very
Thank you.
good. I would.
Thank you. And just another note, we do intend to continue to pursue the larger grant that we have for the last few years, and that was $500,000. We would just remove these small items from that and pursue the other sidewalk and trail improvements in the area. So we're going to continue to work with them.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes,
one
go
other
ahead.
thing, I know that our great county engineer doesn't like when somebody praises him, but I told, he doesn't like it, but I told him on the phone the other day, he has done an excellent job, at least for me, to inform me of what's happening in my district, calling me, even if it's the smallest thing. I really appreciate it, and I just think he's doing, I don't know how you could do any better, but I think you're even doing better. And I know you don't like praise, but I'm just going to tell you that in front of the rest of the county board members. So I appreciate you.
I can do better.
That's a beautiful shade of red.
I can do better, and we're going to continue to do better. That's all I can say. And I must say, and I'm going to take the opportunity to, I can do nothing without my excellent staff. I am but a conductor, and a lot of the hard work and heavy lifting and things like that are the results of the hard work of my staff. And so I might be the face, the red face in this case, that represents a department that's working really hard for you and everybody at Crow Wing County.
Good job, Maestro. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, with that, we'll move on to the 2022 preliminary budget and levy adoption.
You're not going to the sheriff, county
Oh,
attorney, county.
did I miss a couple here? Okay.
You.
County attorney, or, excuse me, county sheriff. I got to get my act together. Captain, nothing to say?
Nope.
All right. County attorney, Mr. Ryan?
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I don't really have anything to add other than, I don't know, I came in a couple of minutes late. The Cartway matter that was going to be at the end of your agenda today, I spoke to both of the attorneys yesterday to see if there was some resolution. They jointly requested that it be pulled from today's calendar. They have elected to go to mediation, which is scheduled the last week of October. I can't remember if it's the 25th or the 26th. I have this marked up in my calendar for like the second week in November to follow up with them to see where we are at, and if and when something needs to be done, I'll bring it back to the board's attention.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. County administrator, senior management.
Mr. Chair,
Report.
members, I'm sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, yesterday there was a senior management team meeting. We talked about COVID and vaccine. We only do that about once a month now, although case rates are climbing in our community, and that is concerning. Our vaccination rates continue to nudge upward as well. We're at about 62% of the 16-plus population in Crow Wing County that's received at least one dose of the vaccine. That's getting dangerously close to 2 out of 3. So those numbers continue to nudge upwards, not quite as fast as I would like to see, but they are continuing to move. We also talked about budget yesterday, and you'll note that late yesterday, Nick sent you an email, and it was, as we're going to deal with kind of the operating preliminary levy today, at the October Budget Committee meeting, we really want to focus on the capital improvement plan and the CIP and whatever objections that you have. So I would ask that you look through the list that Nick sent you yesterday as closely as you can and just run a highlight pen through them and let us know. Basically, what we're doing is setting the agenda for the October Budget Committee meeting, so we'd like to know what are the items you'd like to talk about.
Commissioner Coring.
So a question on that. So yes, I did look at the list. And as you know, I've stated before when we went on the tour, I am not supporting the remodel over at Community Services, and I am not supporting the $142,000 for planning and design, or whatever you want to call it. So today, when we vote on the preliminary levy, I'm not voting on that.
That is correct. Okay, that's fine.
You are setting basically the operating levy, if you will. And there are resources that we use to put into our capital improvement planning. But I think that it still behooves us to build some fund balance. If you pull a project, it will build fund balance in the capital equipment fund or capital improvement fund, and that's a good thing too. So we need that as well. So I think that that is what we hope to do, is if you have something like this that you don't want in there, let's have that discussion. And the SMT members get an opportunity to make their pitch, and you get an opportunity to tell them whether you're persuaded.
Mr. Chair, so Mr. Houle, so we're going to have a committee of the whole meeting where we're going to go through this, or should we personally let you know?
What I would hope you do is respond to Nick, and Nick is going to put that agenda. You can let me know too, that's okay, and then I'm going to let him know. Either way, whichever is most convenient for you, we just want to make sure that we get whatever you're concerned about on that list so that we have a conversation. You mentioned committee of the whole. We were thinking about it at budget committee in October.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
it doesn't need
that
to be
makes
approved until December, so we have time for this conversation.
Right.
So if another commissioner doesn't agree with something on that list, that's where we will air those.
If any one of you wanted a conversation about something, then we have the conversation. What you do with it as a group of 5 is up to you after the fact.
Right.
And we will supply, if I might get the same project from 3, 4, 5 of you, right? Okay, then it's on the list. I will supply that list back to you in advance of the budget committee meeting, so you know, here's the items I heard about from all of you. Mm-hmm. And I suspect that list is going to be longer than any of your individual lists because you're all going to weigh in. So that's kind of how we're thinking about running that process, if that meets with your needs. We also had conversations about the American Rescue Plan Act dollars and how we're going to roll out those. The project team met again yesterday afternoon, so I'm trying to move that forward into something that would be ripe for your consideration. I'm hoping at the October Committee of the Whole meeting we'll have something to propose for you at that time. And that is, well, we got a benefits overview, good news on our benefits package, as you well know. So we got a benefits overview of how that is shaping up, and our LEAD program for 2022, starting that process of identifying who are the emerging leaders among our employees and trying to provide training for their growth and development to help them be prepared so that we have bench strength when we have turnover.
Any questions?
Chair, could I ask another question? So, Tim, I don't know why this just popped into my head, but I know that we had the discussion before of the county board does not do the evaluation for the senior leadership team except you and Eric Flowers. Mm-hmm. So I know we had the discussion, and I apologize because I can't remember every single thing. So are you working to have those evaluations done by the end of the year, or are we still doing them after, like in February, March? Are we still on that same schedule? Or
we tried to do a hybrid. So we tried to compress it, and so we want to be done by the end of February. That's what we did. And, you think about it, if it's hard to do the performance evaluations through the end of the year if you start them before the end of the year. So we're trying to let the performance period end, but we are compressing that. It used to take us 3 months to do that finalization, and now it's taking us 2.
But what happens then? I'm not saying there is nobody that I can see that would have a underperforming, but if January 1st comes and everybody gets whatever it is, 2.5% or 3% raise, and then you do the evaluation, and if you do an evaluation and then the person is underperforming, they don't get a raise, but you've already given it to them, so you can't take it away.
By December 1st, HR is going to send out a notice to all of the supervisors and managers in the county. If you have somebody who you think is going to end up in the underperforming category, we need to know by December 1st. That applies to you guys as well.
Okay.
And so if you think either Eric or I are going to get an underperforming, you should let Mel know by December 1st. And that can be any one of you. And then that lets her know we need to have a conversation about that quicker.
All right.
Because we don't want to do what you described. Someone's going to get an underperforming rating.
Right,
which
we
gets
have
you
done that in the
zero
past.
raise.
It has
It
happened.
has
Yes.
happened in the past.
That
Yes.
is why we have tried to convince you to have these done by the end of the year.
You may recall in that instance, I did ask you in advance, was there an underperforming? I got no answers.
Well, you got answers, but maybe not, maybe people changed their mind, but I know
They
you got
changed their mind.
answers.
I think that's what happened, is they changed their mind. And that happens too, I guess.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? We'll move on to number 12, the 2022 preliminary budget and levy adoption. Mr. Myelke.
Melky.
Melke. Myelke.
Myelke.
My mistake.
Close enough. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Before you today is a resolution to approve the preliminary levy for Crow Wing County, 1st and 2nd Assessment District, the final levy for the Crow Wing County HRA, as well as the benefits package as held by HR, the pay rates for all the elected officials, and a few other smaller items. We're going to focus primarily on the preliminary levy today. So starting out, we are establishing the 3.99% levy that we discussed at the budget committees over the last few months. This is the highest levy rate that we can have for the 2022 fiscal year. We do have until the end of December to review budget, to review CIP, and to adjust this down. We're not able to go any higher than this rate going forward. The proposal is for $42,908,105 for 2022's levy. This is a $1.645 million lift, or that 3.99%. Unorganized territory, we are approving the preliminary levy for them as well. For 1st Assessment District, it is $1.133 million. This is I gotta get the exact number here. A 5.53% increase. For 2nd Assessment District, we are moving the levy to $61,202. This is a 28.98% increase on their levy. And then for the final portion of the levy section, we have the Crow Wing County HRA. Their proposal for 2022 is a flat levy of $729,500 for the 2022 year, which is the exact same amount they had for 2021. Next up is kind of our county structure. We review this as we break out the levy amount into these buckets. Governance services is the board, the administrator, and our attorney's office. Land services does all of our land work as well as our vital records work. Public safety is our sheriff's office and jail. Community services does our social services work. Highway, as the name implies, does all of the road work for the county road system and 1st and 2nd assessment districts. And then administrative services is kind of the glue in between with finance, HR, facilities, and IT, supporting all the entities. In a lot of counties, we look at the estimated market value and new construction for the following year to help us understand how the levy is going to impact everyone. For 2022, the estimated market value is expected to increase 7.67% for 2022. With this, there's approximately $134 million worth of total new construction estimated for 2022. You do see that is a slight decline from 2021, but it still does make up about 1.04% of the total estimated market value. Breaking out where the property tax goes, public safety and community services make up our largest portion of where our property tax is allocated towards. They make up 62% of the total. There are aspects of both entities that are very reliant on the levy in order to provide the programs they have. Community services does have other outside funding sources, but still has a high need for the mandated services that we have to provide, as well as the services that the board has elected them to do. From there, we go to administrative services. We are about 13% of the entire operation or levy. This is an area that is pretty much solely reliant on the levy to actually perform their functions. Governance services is in the same area with 11%. They are reliant on the levy to perform. And then land services and highway services are two areas you see them as a much smaller amount. They do have outside funding sources that allow them to deliver the programs that they are performing. Looking at our 2022 budget and levy, these are the numbers that are in the budget as of this point. You do have the ability to change this and adjust this down through the end of December, but at this point, we are looking at $99,911,854 in expenditures for 2022 under the current budget, with non-levy revenues consisting of $57,196,000, and then the property tax of the $42,908. Some areas to point out in here on the expenditure side, we do see capital projects at a 116% increase over 21. This is us returning to our normal spend rate of just over $4 million annually. We did reduce this during COVID and subsequently limited how much we put towards capital projects in 21 as we navigated making sure we had enough funds to deal with COVID. You also see that highway services and land services have some substantial increases. Both of these are capital projects. With the land services side, solid waste has additional capital projects going forward in 2022 that increase that rate, and highway, we see that fluctuation year over year, ups and downs, with them doing different road projects as we move forward. There are offsetting revenues for this on the highway side.
Commissioner Coring?
Yeah, a question. So you're on this sheet right
Yes.
here. Yeah, so where it says property tax levy, you've got it broken down into each department, I guess.
Yep.
So I thought when we were I was so pleased with the sheriff's department because I thought they were winding up at a 0, and now you've got it at a 14% increase.
You'll see that their expenses are down 2%. We looked primarily at their expense side. The revenue side, in 21, we used $1.8 million worth of fund balance to deliver their program. This is us moving it back towards a balanced budget, is what it's doing. So it looks significant here. It's us bringing us back to a balanced budget.
You remember we booked half of the loss of DOC revenue last year, and so you're booking the other half of the loss of DOC revenue this year. And I don't think we're going to see all of that loss. We should be able to make up some of that loss through boarding other counties' inmates, even if it's not state inmates. But that's what's being reflected here. When you look at the expense side, that minus 2%, that's what they're spending. It's the revenue side that is causing that 14%.
Well, where's Don in here? I got to be able to pick that apart too, maybe.
Governance services, unfortunately, he's in the same category as you are.
Oh, good Lord. Why? Pull him out and put him in separately. All right.
That under advisement.
Okay. Tim, what is the debt service? Now, Crow Wing County is completely out of debt. I thought we had some debt up at the joint maintenance facility up in Cross Lake and a small amount of debt at the airport. Is that all paid off now, or?
I don't believe it is, but we're getting dangerously close, aren't we?
We do have the $98,000 expense for the airport for next year. That is our last payment that is scheduled. We do have substantial or enough fund reserves within debt service that we do not need to levy for that next year. We are able to pay it with what is remaining in our debt service. For the Cross Lake entity, we do not truly hold that debt. The city of Cross Lake holds the debt. We have a lease with them that we pay a portion of what their debt service is
I see,
as part of our lease to utilize that facility.
I see. Tim, question for you. How does, I think we should feel pretty damn proud to be out of debt when the government, our federal government, seems to be borrowing into oblivion. And even the state does a quite large bonding bill, which is borrowing. So how do we compare to other 87 counties? I mean, I would assume that we're kind of an outlier that we don't have any debt, aren't we? Or don't you know?
You can't go lower than zero.
No.
So I think that there are counties out there in Minnesota that are debt-free, but I think it would be the exception, not the norm, far and away.
That's what I thought. Okay. Let me see, I'm just kind of looking here.
Go ahead, Nick.
Continuing on with this aspect, we do see that 25% increase in non-levy revenues for highway. Those are additional state aid and other outside sources coming in to pay for those projects, which is offsetting that increase in the expenditure side. And then on the property tax side, we already touched on the public safety side. We do see a 10% reduction in land services. This is due to the way that the allocation occurs for our non-departmental revenues, i.e. our investment income is bucketed for general fund, and then we try to spread this. It artificially moves some of these around. So this is just a reflection of those changes on that side. Next up. Looking at our total county revenues, for 2021, we had 92 million in total revenues. This year, we are at just over 100 million in budgeted revenues. Some of the areas to look at here are intergovernmental. Those increased dollars for highway are impacting us there, pushing us upwards from where we were. The local option sales tax also is impacting this as well. For our other taxes, we see increases there. As we continue to see local option sales tax perform well above expectations, we continue to adjust that budget to try and catch up to with the economy's reactions. Hopefully it continues at the pace that it's at, and that is beneficial for us in getting roadway projects done. So that's reflected in here as well. Charges for services, you do see a little bit of a bump up here. We do anticipate bringing in a few more residents to the jail. These are outside funds that are coming into us as an organization. And then on the investments, we see that negative amount. Current interest rates, we've talked about this for months and months and months. The interest rates are very dismal at this point, so we are continuing to adjust this to expectations for what our revenues will be from investment income. Right now, we're still working to try and maximize the revenues that we can get from our investments, but being a government, we are very limited in where these can be put to generate those returns. We are making progress, but I don't anticipate seeing significant changes to our interest income for next year to the positive. We expect it to continue at this lower rate. Breaking out total county revenues across the different, or just providing a chart to visualize the last slide. Intergovernmental and our levy are our primary sources of revenue for the county as a whole. And then other taxes, charges for services, and the list goes down from there. On the expenditure side, for 2021, we had a budget of 92.7 million. For 2022, our budget for expenditures are 99,911,854 to date. Some of the areas to look at here, capital projects is returning to its historical average spend. That's what's driving up the changes there, the 116%. Highway services and land services, as we discussed in the previous slides, that driver there is the additional projects for 2022. And then another chart to visualize the previous slide. You can see that community services has 33% of our total expenses for a county. Highway makes up 22%. Their percentage of that pie changes year over year based on the projects they're delivering. Public safety is 17%. Land services, 12% of our total expenses. Admin services is 7%. Governance services, the 5%. And then our capital projects is 4%. Over the last few years, we have covered our levy fund balance for each of the primary areas that we have, including general fund, highway, community services, debt service, and capital projects. This is just another look. We are working towards rebuilding fund balances in many areas. As part of the budget, you notice that the expenses were less than our revenues. We are planfully rebuilding those fund balances to those minimums to allow us to cash flow through those first 6 months of the year while we wait for our levy to actually be settled. We only get the levy settled out to us in July and December. So we have to have enough cash reserves at the end of December to navigate through those first 6 months. General fund, the minimum expectation for 2022 is 11.6 million. At the end of 2020, we did have 13 million in our fund balance here. The challenge with this one is there's only 8 million of this that is unassigned. The rest is restricted or committed, and funds that are unable to allow us to maintain that appropriate level of fund balance. Highway, for 2022, the minimum is 2.68 million. At the end of 2020, we did have 13 million in fund balance. This is a very healthy fund balance. Of this, though, 5.6 million is not related to the local option sales tax. That is funding that they are able to use for this fund balance. The local option sales tax is restricted to those projects that you identified in the process of accepting the local option sales tax. Community services, minimum for 2022 based on current budget is 6.4 million. This, at the end of 2020, was at 1.421 million. So this is a primary fund that we are really working towards rebuilding that fund balance. So you can see we are quite a ways away from that being the case for us, or healthy for us at this point. Debt service, you see that one drop off. That's the orange line. It drops off pretty substantially here. We are down to the point where we don't need to carry a fund balance here. We don't have debt service to pay off. So this is strategic to get this back to zero. Whatever is remaining in debt service has to remain there, because the only thing that funding can be used for is paying off debt. So we're trying to get that one to zero. And then our capital projects, our minimum that we have established by board is 2.2 million in fund balance. At the end of 2020, we were at 2.58. So we are in a good position there as well. Final on our list to review today is the first and second assessment districts. This is a breakdown of our revenue, our property revenue, our other revenues, and our expenses for each area. For the first assessment district, this is a 5.53% increase to their levy. This is within our plan. We have, a few years back, established a plan for us to be able to build the proper fund balance and revenues to do road projects within first assessment district. This 5.53 remains within that plan and is anticipated to continue getting us to where we need to be for this. For second assessment district, it is a 28.98% increase. If you recall, last year we implemented a plan to do a 3-year spread as a result of a clerical error back in the 2022 or 2020 budget cycle. The levy was reduced well below where it was supposed to be. This is ours trying to correct that and to ensure that they have the proper funding and fund balance to deliver on the road projects out there as well. This is an area that sees a significant amount of money invested in graveling projects every 3 to 4 years. And the fund balances in this area were already in a tough spot. This is helping us try and catch back up to that point. With that, I stand for any questions or comments you may have.
Questions?
Mr. Chair. Nick, just remind me, now, the townships, do they have to have their levy do they have to have a preliminary levy, or do they just do their levy in December?
The townships have their final levy due here in September, if I'm correct.
Mr. Chair, members, I believe that townships are setting their annual levy for the following year at their annual meeting in March. And then they certify it at that annual meeting in March. So we get township information, I think, pretty early, don't we? Compared to cities, which are much more like counties, school districts much more like counties, where it's very much at the end of the year.
Mr. Chair, yes, the townships do have their annual meeting. They can set their levy for the following year, their final levy for the following year. They have through September 15th to do so. So some of them postpone that vote on their levy until August or September, where they convene another second annual meeting, if you will. The difference with the towns is that their full membership, their township citizens, can come and vote on their levy at that annual meeting. So they do have some opportunity. A lot of times you'll see them do it in March. Others will wait and do it. We've been getting some recently here too with their August and September meetings as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And then, Mr. Chair, a question for Mr. Hool. So we're setting the county levy at 399, almost 4. In talking to any of your counterparts, any other county, any other information? I mean, I could really care less we always compare to other counties, but I guess I'm just curious. Any ideas of what levies are being set at in other?
I would say that I can certainly and easily find, even among the MICA counties, which would be probably the most similar counties in the state, I would say half of them will be higher than us, and there may be, at least half of them will be higher than us, and a few of them might be lower than us. Mm-hmm. That's what I've seen. What have you seen?
Well, the Brainerd Dispatch said Cass was 3.5.
Well,
in the neighborhood, I don't know.
It has to be right then.
It has to be.
I don't know what the neighborhood is doing yet.
Okay. All right. Believe it or not, I don't have any other questions on this.
Unbelievable.
Oh, no.
Anything else, Nick?
That is all for the presentation today.
All right, and now I've learned how to pronounce your name, Mr. Melky, so I apologize for mispronouncing it.
Well, I hope so.
And with that, I would look for a motion to approve the preliminary budget at 3.99%.
And the resolution, Mr. Chair, that's in your packet. There's a few other levies, like the HRA, the first and second assessment, so it's a little bit of a soup to nuts resolution.
So we're approving the preliminary levy resolution.
Correct.
Looking for a motion.
Also move.
Commissioner Brecken makes the motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Not in favor, same sign. That motion passes.
Thank you,
Look
Commissioners.
Forward to the next few months. Any other business?
And just one other, I sound like
I
Lieutenant
knew.
Columbo. Just one more question. Tim Hool, so a question is this is our preliminary levy. And I think, I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Will staff, senior management, continue to look at ways to shave and this could possibly be lower?
It certainly could possibly be lower, and that's the process between now and December, is to continue to look at that. We know we have things that are going to happen. Our health insurance came in favorably.
Okay.
So the question is, do you want to build fund balance with that, or do you want to change the tax rate?
Okay.
One additional thing, and I reminded everybody last week that it was National Addiction Recovery Week. Today happens to be National Sober Day. So for all of those that struggle with their addictions and are sober today, congratulations, and we support them in their endeavor to overcome their addiction. Commissioner Coring.
And I, being that you're going to say that, I want to say that today is kind of a special day. It would have been my dad's 91st birthday today. He's in heaven, and just want to say I sure miss him. So,
thank you very much.
thank you.
If there's nothing else, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Franzine.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not in favor, same sign. That motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for the information we received today. We appreciate it.